You're watching TechShark, bite-sized news for conservatives surfing the net. Unlike other shows, we're not just complaining about big tech tyranny or media bias. We're talking about how the conservative movement is starting its own solutions and changing its game plan to take on big tech. Today, I have the honor of being joined by retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Thanks for joining us on TechShark. All right, sir, as a leader invested in the future of the conservative movement, you could see that so many American institutions are being overrun by the left. It seems any organization that isn't explicitly conservative goes woke. There's Hollywood, academia, the military, and the big tech companies that dominate all online speech. How do conservatives take back America's institutions?
Well, I think it's very important that we start to look at how we unravel what the progressive socialist left has done over the past 60 to 70 years. And if you think you're going to do it overnight, you're quite delusional. So when you understand that the leftist, the Marxist mentality has been to go after every single operating system and cultural, societal entity in the country, being our political systems, educational systems, the entertainment, media systems, we've got to start looking at where we can peel that back. That's one of the reasons why I tell people the most important elected position in the United States of America is school board. We have not paid a lot of attention to our school board races. We're starting to do that a lot better down here in Texas. When you look at the South Lake, Texas experiment, where they created a PAC that was focused on one thing, winning back city council and school board elections, because the precursor to critical race theory was cultural competency action plan, and they won back some school board seats. So I think that's where it starts, is getting control of that local level of our systems of governance. And then we've got to stand up and start, banding ourselves together. One of the problems with the conservative movement is that we operate in stovepipes. Instead of how the left operates, unified and together, we've got to stop with this stovepipe operations that we have, and we've got to become better coordinated and better synchronized, and we have to be strategic in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Recently, the Intercept news outlet reported that the Pentagon's new anti-Trump hatchet man, Bishop Garrison, is designing a program to have military personnel social media spied on for concerning behaviors. And it doesn't stop there. Revolver recently resurfaced a piece by Garrison where he referred to freedom of speech online in the form of disinformation as a digital black plague. Essentially, liberal top brass in the military is using big tech spying to purge conservatives. You've seen the military from the inside and out as a lieutenant colonel. How can we stop this? And how did the military establishment, from the Pentagon to Lockheed Martin, get so woke in the first place?
Well, I had to tell you that elections have consequences. And when we saw what happened with not getting President Trump reelected, now you get the progressive left in charge of our military, and this countering extremism working group where Mr. Garrison is a part of that, to include also a lawyer that has worked with the Muslim Brotherhood, a legal jihadist. And so think about down in Fort Hood, Texas, we have had a chaplain who has come under investigation because on his own personal social media platform, he spoke out against gender dysphoria, being in the military, transgenderism. And so how do we get to this point where we're investigating a chaplain? Or you have the Space Force commander that was relieved of command because he spoke out against Marxism. Now, the oath of office that I took was to support and defend the Constitution. Marxism has nothing to do with the Constitution. So my concern is that we are starting to see an old Soviet army type of principle, the political officers, the commissars that are out there making sure that our men and women in uniform are following an ideology or following a person and not honoring their oath to the Constitution. Even here, the Texas State Guard, of which I'm a member, we had one of these briefings that was given, and they started to talk about, you have to be careful about being a member of an organization like the NRA, the National Rifle Association, the oldest civil rights organization that we have in the country. And I just happen to be a board member of the National Rifle Association, as well as a member of the Texas State Guard. So I am very concerned about what we have happening. That's why you saw the letter that came out from the retired generals and officers, and then also admirals, And then also we have a letter from retired military members about what is happening in our Pentagon. We can't have a military that is out owing their sacred, commitment to an ideology and not to the country, not to the Constitution.
Absolutely. And I think particularly as far as state leadership goes, we've got this phenomenon of liberals who ruin their home states with bad policies, who then flee to red states and turn them blue. You're fighting that right now in Texas. California teachers are moving in to teach critical race theory in small-town America. Big tech companies are setting up shop in red states like Google and Facebook, going to Austin, Texas, and bringing blue voters with them. There doesn't seem to be any viable solution. I mean, I've heard some proposals as wild as conservatives asking if red states should consider restricting interstate migration to avoid getting colonized by the left. What do you think?
Well, I don't think that we want to go that far, but without a doubt, we need to have leadership in our respective red states, like you see Ron DeSantis saying that he will punish these social media platforms for censoring people within his state, and there will be financial penalties that go along with that. And so when we see these companies that are leaving California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, I think instead of us enticing them and giving them taxpayer-funded benefits and subsidies to move into our successful red states, we should just say, if you want to move here, then fine, you move here, but you need to understand the principles and values that have caused you to leave these failing blue states, and you want to come here to a successful red state. I was born and raised in Georgia, and it's absolutely appalling to me that there are 5 areas in Georgia: the Atlanta metropolitan area, Macon, Savannah, Columbus, and then Augusta, that are the reason why you have 2 socialist senators from the great state of Georgia. And we're fighting that battle here in Texas, as you just talked about. There are people that are leaving those states on their own because they're tired of those policies. But when you have a workforce that picks up and moves with a lot of these corporations and businesses, then you have some issues. And we're seeing a lot of that up here in North Texas, and then also, as you just mentioned, down in Austin.
Mm-hmm. So regarding the tech topic in particular, conservatives were merely getting censored on mainstream platforms before. Then it was banks closing conservatives' accounts or Amazon deplatforming Parler. So we all got to get cancel-proof. Does any major conservative organization have an answer for the new choke point problem we're dealing with, or have a plan to found, say, conservative banks? What do you suggest?
Well, again, that comes back to my issue about us being so stovepiped, and we need to have that strategic perspective. We need to make sure that we have people out there in the financial sector that are creating financial institutions that will make sure that this is a safe place for conservatives. One of the things that you see is an undermining of our Second Amendment, so that there are banks, financial institutions that are saying that they're not going to do dealings with anybody that is part of the gun manufacturing industry. So how do we make sure that we can bring together financial institutions and banks and things of that nature to support those type of corporations and make sure that we're not succumbing? I'd like to see, some really good, strong conservatives put together an airline, so we don't have to be, subject to American and Delta and some of these other woke corporations. So that's what I think is so important. So when you look at the media space, that's why Media Research Center is so important. And I think that this is something that maybe the American Conservative Union or some other, top level conservative organizations can look at doing. We need a strategic battle plan. Because too often we are always reacting to the left and what they have done, and we're not being proactive. And you can't win unless you're on offense.
Exactly. We've definitely got our work cut out for us. So we're about out of time, but hey, it's been an honor speaking with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Anytime.
You've been watching TechShark. Once again, I'm Alexander Hull with MRC-TV and Free Speech America. Have a good week.